We have temps in the 60s today, 50s later on in the forecast.
Winter's coming. Now's the time to get our homes ready, but should we also look at our cars? It's one of 3 questions lined up.
Our main man right here has the answers. Peter Fink from Certified Transmission.
Hey, main man.
Oh, okay.
The main man is here. Good to see you.
I guess I've been called a lot of things. That was not too bad, you know. So
yeah, you'll take
I'll
that
take that one.
Let's get to this first question because Janice writes, on our 2002 Honda CR-V, the engine light comes on and off randomly. It doesn't flash, but it will come on for a few days and then turn off for a day or two. No issues with the gas cap. 2 years ago it came on and we replaced an O2 sensor. Just wondering what would cause it to stay on and then turn off.
Well, check engine lights come on when the computer sees something wrong with how the engine's running. You might not feel it, okay? It could be a pre-stage early misfire. One of the sensors went outside of its perimeters, okay? And then it's going to cause a check engine light. All check engine lights always are set when if there's a sensor that gets skewed for one time, it won't set a check engine light. If it does it 2 times, then check engine light comes on. Mm-hmm. So this one is kind of either got a sensor that's going out of range, that's starting to act up, and that's why sometimes it'll set the check engine light. After about 5 or 6 key cycles, okay, a key cycle is you start it up and the engine gets warm and then you turn it off, okay? You do that about 4, 5, 6 times depending how the manufacturer has it programmed. The check engine light will go on if it don't see that any more codes. So that's the reason a check engine light can come on and go off. Actually, my own car, once in a while, if I drive out to Denver or into the high altitudes that it's not used to, when it gets out there, it sees things are different and the check engine light will come on. But after you turn the key on 3 or 4 or 5 times, it goes off and it stays off because it's self-learning to where you're at, okay, and stuff, all right?
So is it a concern?
Yes, it is, okay, because it's showing that there's an early signal that there's something going wrong. It will set a code in the history mode, okay? So you're going to have to go to a shop. They got to have a scanner. They got to plug it in, see where that code is. Chances are, since they said this was an O2, it's probably a misfire, probably needs some spark plugs, maybe some wires, maybe a coil, okay, something along there. Next, just because you replaced one oxygen sensor, some of these cars, that one's a little bit older. New cars have anywhere between 6, 8 oxygen sensors on them. I mean, so if you replaced one, you still got a bunch of other ones that could be too. Now, you don't start throwing parts at it. You got to have it checked out, okay? Got to go to a good shop. Those are kind of hard to find when they're intermediate problems like that, you know.
But plugging it in and doing that diagnostic
test
is the first
it's a good starting point because it'll tell you what code it's set in the history mode. Might not be current. The only way it's current is if the light's currently on.
Okay. Yeah. Jason is our next question asker.
Okay.
And he says, is there anything I need to do to my car to prepare it for the colder weather? Fluid changes or anything that will help it run better?
You know, the fluid changes are, to me, one of the most important things. That's what lubricates and cools your car. And I'm not just talking about antifreeze. I'm talking all fluids in the car. One thing that sometimes people forget about, and this helps the car to start, okay, and it also will help the fuel pump last longer, is a fuel filter. That, for some reason, people seem to ignore all the time, okay? You don't want to ignore that. The next thing is, back to like that first question that we had, I always like to make sure my engine's running properly, that it starts easy, you know, it's cold, it doesn't want to crank fast, okay? The battery's a little low always because it doesn't have the same cold cranking amps as it does when it's warm because a lot more friction and everything. So the engine tune-up, okay, in the old days, you always got it tuned up before winter. Now you don't have to do it every year, but if it's been a number of years or a lot of miles, it's time, okay? So doing those things, and of course, then your tires, okay? Got to have good tires going into the winter, okay?
But it seems like you don't have to do as much nowadays with the
Not
new
as
cars.
much.
You used to have to put the winter tires on, you maybe throw a big sandbag in the back trunk, right?
And well, it depends. If you got front-wheel drive, you don't want a sandbag in the trunk, is the wrong way.
It's
but
funny,
then
I love driving around this summer. I still saw people with sandbags in the bed of their truck or whatever in some cases.
Oh yeah, definitely. And tires, you know, you don't even have to change them because they got the universal year-round tires, okay? So it isn't like it used to be, okay? So you are correct there.
But it still matters. It still matters.
All right, here's our last question. It comes from Kara. She says, I have a 2006 Prius and it recently started making a warning beep noise when I turn off the car. It happens intermittently and I can't figure out if it's because I turn off the car with the lights on or with my seatbelt off or what. Can you help me figure out what's happening?
Well, New cars like to ding for a lot of different reasons, okay? If you do something or forget to do something. I don't own a Prius, okay? I've driven them or whatever and stuff. A couple things that would come to mind on this, okay? A Prius is, when you turn it off, first of all, it's electric, and the engine, the gas-powered motor only comes on to charge up the batteries, okay? And when people think they turn it off, it's not really completely off, okay? It's a double mode deal on these Priuses. Like I said, I've driven some. It's kind of weird or whatever and stuff. And actually, they even say, if you're working on them, the car can start in the service bay. They say, take the keys, take them out of the car, make sure they're up in the front shop, because I've heard of times where people have drained the oil out of the engine, the battery gets a little low, and the engine will try to start up when there's no oil in it, okay, and different things like this, because it's not really off. It's not real. The car's in sleep mode, like, or whatever, or intermediate mode. It's not really in the off mode, okay. The biggest thing is one of two things. If your key fob battery is going low, it will beep, okay, at you. The other thing is, if it's in the sleep mode and you don't really have it all the way off and you open the door, it will start beeping at you, okay? Obviously, it'll beep at you if you left your headlights on, okay? I'm assuming we didn't do that, okay, and stuff. So I would think next time you do, when you turn it off all the way, step on the brake pedal before you open the door. I bet you the beeping will go away, okay? It's telling you it's in that sleep mode, and it's near. The key fob, the car still thinks that it's in sleep mode and you want to drive. It's kind of a different technology. It's hard to describe or whatever.
Would it say something in the owner's manual?
There is quite a bit in
Just
that
read
in the
the
owner's manual, a little bit. Okay, now I don't know if it's going to say if it's beeping, it's because of this. I mean, you kind of going to have to read between the lines a little bit, you know, or something like, because he'll probably say you got to shut the car off, make sure it's all the way off before you open the door. It probably won't say it's going to beep or something like that.
I'm just thinking as people, if we beeped when we were in sleep mode.
Walking
around, don't talk to me.
We need a beeper.
5 area locations for certified transmission. And if your transmission's acting up, or if you get in a bind this winter because you try to get out of a snowbank or something, you'll find several professionals constantly going through training, even the last few weeks, to make sure they're up to speed on all this technology. Thank you, Peter. We
Always
appreciate
great.
you.
Thanks, Peter. Good to see you.
And